Hello rail fans, and welcome to French Fried Trains. Today we're going to be doing something completely different to celebrate the end of the year here, and I'm going to be doing my first ever top 10 video. And we're going to be counting down what I think are the best top 10 Minecraft train tutorials we've done on the channel in 2022 here. But first, I want to thank each and every one of you who support the channel and watch these videos and put in requests. Your requests this year have really pushed the limits and made my skills at building trains grow immensely compared to the beginning of the year. There's a lot of trains that we've done this year that I never would have done on my own, and really pushed my challenges and learning how to figure out how to build these things. So I want to thank you all again, and also stay tuned next week for an announcement about taking requests again. Now, originally I was just going to do a 2022 year in review and look at all the builds we did this year, but once I got into it, I realized that we did 360 Minecraft tutorials this year, and that would have been too much. So we're going to be doing this top 10 video. Now, this isn't really going to be my top 10 favorite trains in real life. This is going to be my top 10 favorite builds that we've done, based on complexity of build, or how the paint job turned out, or the shape of it, or a new way of doing things. Just builds that turned out really awesome. So don't feel bad if your favorite train isn't on the list. This is just the ones that I think turned out the best. So without any further ado, let's get into it. First up, we'll do a few honorable mentions here. And these are ones that almost made the list, but just didn't quite make it for one small reason or another here. The first honorable mention here is this Indian Railways WDP-4 locomotive. And while this did turn out really well, and it is my favorite of all the locomotives from India we've done, this was made before I really started upgrading the details on my builds, especially on the undercarriage, and for that reason, it didn't quite make the cut here. The next honorable mention is this Montana Rail Link Veterans Unit here, and I do really like how the paint job on this locomotive turned out, and this almost made the list, but in the end, it's just another SD70 Ace, which I've probably done about 50 of, so for that reason, it didn't make the list. The next honorable mention is this Las Vegas monorail here, with its track under it. And this is the first monorail we've ever done on the channel, and for that reason it was almost on the list, but I was never quite fully happy with how the bottom of this turned out. The bottom looks too big to me, so for that reason it didn't quite make the top 10. And our final honorable mention here is this Rail Runner commuter train, which almost made the list just because I was really happy with how the paint job turned out on this one, but in the end, these cars are an outdated build, and I've done Bombardier bi-level coaches multiple times, so this one didn't make it either. And now we're on to the actual top 10 list, with number 10 on the list here. And this one was almost as hard as picking number 1, because out of your best builds, which one do you put on bottom? So at number 10 here, we have the Union Pacific WER1 locomotive. And this is a newer build, how I'm building them now with much more detail, but I was just really happy with how the paint job on this one turned out. It looks really cool. And as usual with all my builds, there is an interior and a cab inside here, which we can take a quick look here, and you could even come down here. But this is an SD70M, and I've built a lot of these, so that's what puts it on the bottom spot on the list and not any higher. Now on to number 9, and our first passenger train on the list here. I've done many passenger trains, but this one probably turned out the best looking, I think. And we have this Metrolink commuter train here, and as you can see on the end, we have a Hyundai Rotom cab car, which has a really unique design, and I think this is only the second time I've got to build this type of cab car. And then we just have the regular Hyundai Rotem bi-level coaches on it, and I was really happy with how the paint job on this one looks. I just think it looks really cool. And at the other end, we have this F-125 locomotive, which I think is the only time I've built one of these locomotive types. And as we come inside here, you can see this locomotive is very detailed on the inside with multiple compartments. And just this locomotive alone is enough to get this on the list here. And since we're in here, we'll take a look inside the passenger car. And as you can see, there are actually 2 floors inside here. So the paint job, coupled with the locomotive that I've only done once, and the Hyundai Rotem cab car, earns this Metrolink train a spot on our top 10 list here. Now we're on to number 8 on the list here. And number 8 is actually going to be a train from the Philippines. And we've had many great requests for trains from the Philippines this year. Trains that I would have not even known about if it weren't for the requests. And while this one isn't my favorite Philippines train in real life, it is my favorite of the Minecraft builds from the Philippines that we've done. Mostly just for how well the shape of this end of the train turned out here. I think it came out looking really good, as it's a complex curve to build in Minecraft. And you can see there is a full interior as well. And we'll take a quick peek inside here. So for those reasons, this PNR 8100 class DMU makes our number 8 spot on the list. And now we're on to number 7 here. And in our number 7 spot, we have a GE Genesis locomotive. And we're taking a look at the Amtrak Operation Lifesaver unit, which is a P42DC GE Genesis locomotive. Now I've been building these GE Genesis locomotives all the way since 2017 when I started playing Minecraft, as I just think they're really cool and unique looking. And every year I have upgraded my build to be better and better, and I think this year's 2022 version of the Genesis is my most accurate looking one yet. And I picked this one out of all the different ones we've done, because we've done many of them, just because of how well the paint job turned out. So that is the number 7 spot on the list. And now we're on to number 6, and our first steam locomotive on the list here. Now I have a complex relationship with Minecraft steam locomotives. At the beginning of the year, I dreaded doing them as I never felt the shape turned out right. But with being pushed by you guys and your many requests, I feel I've gotten better at it. And since we have done a lot of steam locomotives this year, picking ones for the list was actually really hard. But ultimately, it came down to which ones I felt had the best shape and details. And number 6 here is a steam locomotive that needs no introduction. We have the A4 class Mallard steam locomotive. And this is the locomotive that holds the world record for fastest steam locomotive. And this one made it on the list mostly for the shape of the front end and figuring out how to get that to look correct here. And it does have a fully detailed cab, of course, and you can look in the firebox. And another thing that gets this one on the list is it features this walk-through tender, which was hard to figure out how to do, but you can actually walk through to the back of the tender. So for those reasons, the A4 Mallard is the steam locomotive that made the cut for our number 6 spot. And now we're getting into the top 5 here with number 5, and this is where the competition really started to get fierce. And while I knew mostly what my top 5 builds were, picking the order for them to go in was really hard here. But in the number 5 spot, we have a really unique build. In our number 5 spot here, we have WECX number 801. And this is a Schnabel type car, and it is the world's largest rail car, which suspends a load between the two halves here, and it rides on a total of 36 axles. And over here you can see we have the version where it's actually carrying a load in the middle, and it is just big and humongous. And all these span bolsters and axles allow the load to swing around over the tracks to go around curves. And there is an operator cab on either end here, so they can precisely control and move around the load for balance. And it is very large and a complex build and very unique, and for that reason it makes the number 5 spot. Now moving on to the number 4 spot, and in the 4th place we have another steam locomotive here. And our number 4 spot goes to the Blue Comet steam locomotive here. It's kind of funny that both the locomotives of steam on this list ended up being blue ones, but that's just how it worked out, as when I objectively looked at all the steam locomotives we built this year, the Blue Comet is the one that I feel really captured the shape of the real life locomotive the best here. And it does have a cab, as usual with all my builds, and you can climb up on the tender here. And also, I feel the detailing on this one, especially around the front end, turned out pretty good. And now we're into the number 3 spot, and we're in the top 3, where the fiercest competition was. And when I first got the idea for this video, I already knew what my top 3 builds were, but finding out an actual order and ranking for them was really hard to do. But in the end, our number 3 spot goes to a unique Union Pacific locomotive. And at number 3 here, we have the Union Pacific Jito, the gas turbine electric locomotive. And this is a locomotive that's powered by what is essentially a jet engine. And there were 3 generations of these. This is the 3rd generation. The 1st generation was 1 unit. The 2nd generation added a tender. And this 3rd generation has an A unit, a B unit, and a tender. So this A unit has the cab and its own diesel engine for moving at slow speeds because the turbine burns so much fuel. Then the B unit has the actual gas turbine up here. And then of course, at the back, we have a fuel tender. And I feel this one really turned out well, especially on the shape of the nose here and the actual interior for it. So of course we have a cab in this A unit. And then we have generators and other equipment and a diesel engine for moving at slow speed. And then when you move back into the B unit here, we have the true main generators. And at the very back here, which is hard to do 1 block wide in Minecraft, we have the gas turbine. So, just for the complexity and all the details on this build, it earns it a spot on our top 3 here. And now we're on to number 2 in our top 2 spots. And between these two, it was really hard to figure out which one would end up as the number 1 spot. But in the number 2 place here, we have another Union Pacific turbine engine. And in the number 2 spot, just inching out over the gas turbine, is the Union Pacific steam turbine streamline locomotive here. And this one made it above the gas turbine just for the simple fact that it has a much more complex exterior shape, especially around the nose, and lots more external details here, which I think came out super good looking here. And of course, we have an interior with all the same detailing on the inside as well. It was really hard to pick which of the turbines got the number 2 spot, but like I said, the exterior complexities of this one just inched it out into our number 2 spot here. And for that reason, that's why we picked the Union Pacific steam turbine. And finally, this is it everyone. We are finally at our number 1 spot for what I think was the best build we've done on the channel in 2022. And like I said, I tried not to play favorites and be objective, but this one takes the number one spot because of how complex it was. So, without any more fanfare, we move on to our number one build. So, at number one here, we have this Soyuz Rocket carrier train. And this is probably my biggest and most complex single video build I've ever done on the channel. Just the tutorial for this alone took over 15 hours of work, because not only did we have to figure out how to build all the different train cars, also had to figure out how to build the Soyuz rocket itself and build it sideways. So for that reason, it's making the number one spot here. Like I said, this one was very complex to figure out, especially with all these different cars that have all these different platforms to attend to the rocket here. And I think it turned out really well, and it looks really cool, and just due to the complexity, this makes it easily the number one build of the year for French fried trains, Minecraft train tutorials here. So I hope everyone's enjoyed this end of the year top 10 video, as we've never done anything like it before. Let me know if you like this video in the comments below. And don't forget to stay tuned. Sometime early next week, I'll have a video out to start taking requests again in 2023. So thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And everyone, have a great week and a Happy New Year.